What's up, guys? Jersey John here. Wanted to go over hand history with you. I played at the Silks the other night, 2-5 game. We'll get into that, but first I want to talk about my Packers. They lost. They didn't go perfect, but you know, I actually think this is a good thing for them. Now there's no pressure. We can just focus on the Super Bowl, get healthy, get back to what it's about, winning the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people wanted to see them go perfect, best team in history, but when it's all said and done, it's really about that ring. And you know, I still got my throwback Reggie White on, so I think we're gonna do it still, no big deal. But let's go into a hand here. I played this hand at the Silks, 2-5 game, and this hand really is about when to call down with ace high. Now, some of you might have tried to do this before, some of you never even thought about it. But mainly, my main point with this is when you're going to call down with ace high, king high, things like that, you want your opponent to be polarized. And what I mean by polarized is that you want them to be either real strong or real weak. Okay? If they have some sort of, pair in their range when they're betting on the river, you don't want to be calling them down in that spot. And oftentimes, most people, if they have some marginal hand, they go to check down for a showdown. Some other players, whether good or bad, might actually bet for value. Those are the players that you have to stay away from when trying to call with ace high. But anyways, once again, polarized, that's the key. So let's look at this hand here that I played. I had ace 9. And we're playing a full ring game here. I was on the button, and I decided to limp ace 9 suited on the button. I think that's better to actually raise there, but I've been playing a little bit more passive pre. Raising all your hands that you come in with. That's probably the most effective way to play, but also the highest variance. I've been trying to play a little bit of a lower variance style recently, but alright, so my opponent bets out in the small blind $25, about the pot size bet. My opponent in the small blind is a very tight player, very good player, solid. I have him dead on for some sort of random flop 2 pair here. We got queen 8, 8-5, queen 5, all those types of hands are in his range. Potentially sets, but he's got a strong hand. He would check back a weak queen and things like that. So now we see here that seat 6 calls. Seat 6 was a very bad player. I know he's got a wide range here. And the turn comes out. So seat 6 calls. I call, of course, the flush. I could have raised in this spot, but I decided just to call. Now, my opponent, once again a tight player, leads out for $70, only confirms what I was believing. And that was, he's got 2 pair. So he bets 70, the donk in seat 6, he calls, I call of course. In this spot, at this point, I really think that seat 6 has a draw. Whether it be 6-7, whether it be another flush draw. I have him dead rights for a draw. And the river is a very interesting card. The king of clubs. Now, once again, I had my opponent dead on flop 2 pair. Well, at this point now, with the board pairing on the river, he's counterfeited. At best, he's probably got kings and queens with an 8 kicker. That's probably his best hand. Now, what are our perceived ranges? He knows that one of us probably had a flush draw, straight draw, but maybe one of us actually had a queen. Let's say queen 10. Now, at that point, we would have kings, queens with a 10 kicker. He's got to be really worried about this. So, he checks. My opponent bets 160. And he does it very aggressively. I was looking at his demeanor at the table. Now, once again, I think he's very polarized here. I think he either has some huge monster or a misdraw. He would check back some sort of weak queen because he's not going to get much value anywhere else. I really, this is one of those spots where, you got to put the money in sometimes and go with your gut. I think my hand analysis was pretty good in this spot, and I went with my read, and I called him on the river here, and doesn't show his hands, but he had King 3 of spades here, guys. King 3 of spades, so he had the second nut flush draw. He backdoored into trips. He had a big hand. He got very lucky. He backdoored into a big hand. Therefore, that's why he bet. Now, that's probably one of the only hands that he could have here in this spot to be able to bet there. I think that he can't have a full house because the board was so wet. He would have raised at some point. And I really liked my call. The results didn't warrant, the justification, you would say, but that's not what it's about. It's not about the results. It's about making good decisions. That's what it's about. And once again, when you're going to call down with ace high, guys, you got to make sure that they're polarized. Either they have a huge hand or they have a bluff. And once they're polarized to that way, you can then call down with ace high. So once again, Jersey John here, guys. Hit me up on Twitter.